To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Lawyer Atticus Finch plans on spending the night reading and guarding the sheriff's cell containing the black man he has been defending. A lynch mob arrives. In the midst of this volatile scene, Atticus's children make a surprise visit. In ones and twos, men got out of cars. Atticus remained where he was. "He in there, Mr. Finch?" "He is," we heard Atticus answer, "and he's asleep. Don't wake him up." "You know what we want," another man said. "You can turn around and go home again, Walter," Atticus said pleasantly. I broke away and ran as fast as I could to Atticus. "Hey, Atticus!" I thought he would have a fine surprise, but his face killed my joy. "Go home, Jem," he said. "Take Scout and Dill and go home." Jem shook his head. "Son, I said go home." Jem shook his head. "I'll send him home," a burly man said, and grabbed Jem roughly by the collar. "Don't you touch him!" I kicked the man swiftly. Barefooted, I was surprised to see him fall back in real pain. I intended to kick his shin, but aimed too high. "That'll do, Scout," Atticus said, putting his hand on my shoulder. "Don't kick folks." "No," he said, as I was pleading justification. "Ain't nobody gonna do Jem that way." In the midst of this strange assembly, Atticus stood, trying to make Jem mind him. I was getting a bit tired of that. I sought once more for a familiar face, and in the center of the semicircle, I found one. "Hey, Mr. Cunningham!" The man did not hear me, it seemed. "Hey, Mr. Cunningham, how's your entailment coming along?" He seemed uncomfortable. He cleared his throat and looked away. "Hey, Mr. Cunningham, I go to school with Walter. He's your boy, ain't he? Ain't he, sir?" Mr. Cunningham was moved to a faint nod. He did know me after all. "He's in my grade, and he does right well. He's a good boy," I added, "a real nice boy. We brought him home for dinner one time. Maybe he told you about me. I beat him up once, but he was real nice about it. Tell him hey for me, won't you?" Atticus had said it was a polite thing to do, to talk to people about what they were interested in, not about what you were interested in. Mr. Cunningham displayed no interest in his son, so I tackled his entailment once more in a last-ditch effort to make him feel at home. "Entailments are bad," I was advising him, when I slowly awoke to the fact that I was addressing the entire aggregation. Atticus's mouth, even, was half open. "Well, Atticus, I was just saying to Mr. Cunningham that entailments are bad and all that, but that you'd said not to worry. It takes a long time sometimes, that you'd all ride it out together." I was slowly drying up, wondering what idiocy I had committed. Entailments seemed all right enough for living room talk. They were quite still. "Well, what's the matter?" I asked. Atticus said nothing. I looked around and up at Mr. Cunningham, whose face remained equally impassive. Then he did a peculiar thing. He squatted down and took me by both shoulders. "I'll tell him you said hey, little lady," he said. Then he straightened up and waved a big paw. "Let's clear out," he called. "Let's get going, boys." As they had come in ones and twos, Men shuffled back to their ramshackle cars. Doors slammed, engines coughed, and they were gone. I turned to Atticus, but Atticus had gone over to the jail and was leaning against it with his face to the wall. I went to him and pulled his sleeve. "Can we go home now?" He shook his head, produced his handkerchief, gave his face a going over, and stepped back. A soft, husky voice came from the darkness above. "Mr. Finch, they gone?" "They've gone," Atticus said. "Get some sleep, Tom. They won't bother you any more."